Hello, namaste. My name is Atreya Vedantam. I was born in Hyderabad, so I am Telugu by birth, but I have grown up in Chennai, so that is where I've grown up. Uh, my uh, uh, my JEE mains rank, JEE main rank is 221, and my JEE advanced rank is 315. So I have chosen to pursue electrical engineering at IIT Madras. I have chosen IIT Madras because uh, I've always wanted to do electrical engineering. The reason being, I feel it's a very broad branch where you at the end of undergraduate, at the end of 4 years of undergraduate, you will have the ability options to go into either a computer science direction or into a pure engineering mechanical kind of background. You'll have a bit of variety is what I feel. I chose IIT Madras because I am a little more interested into research when I grow up. So I believe IIT Madras is a very good institution for that as compared to other IITs. So I heard first about the IIT Dream around 10th standard. I would say ninth standard. I did go to coaching, but it was not the school oriented. It was a little advanced oriented. But I didn't have specifically JEE in mind. I knew about it. I knew about IIT. Having lived close here, I knew about IIT Madras. But I was not very motivated until somewhere around 10th was where I started focusing on my preparation as with JEE as a goal in mind, and I started to think what can I do in 10th standard which would give me an advantage in 11th and 12th, so that I can find it easier to, because I had heard from lots of people that 10th standard is very easy. So there's a toughness scale which I heard from a very knowledgeable person, that ninth standard is very tough because it's a big jump from 8th standard in terms of concepts, knowledge. So it's tough for a student. But from ninth standard to 10th standard, it's a very easy. 10th standard does not require much knowledge at all. It's much hard work. It is a year of board exams, so that's why it's toned down a little bit so that it's easy for people to score well in boards. Now, because 10th is easy, naturally the toughness of the 10th standard is lot of it is pushed to 11th standard, which means a lot of students find 11th standard very tough. So because of this, I thought of what can I do in 10th standard so that I can make 11th easier for me, so that I will have an advantage. So I did go to two coaching institutes. So there was one coaching institute that I went to from ninth. So I went to this coaching institute called Aha Guru from ninth during ninth standard and in 11th and 12th. Then I simultaneously I also went to another coaching institute in Fiji. I went to Fiji in 10th, 11th, and 12th. So a lot of challenges I faced were in 8th standard. I was not at all study oriented. I was definitely not doing the best in my school classroom. There used to be much people better than me academic wise, everything. This sort of was a demotivating factor for me initially, because I thought I can't even beat my classmates. How will I do well in this all India exam? And it was a little hard for me to start. But the more I've started, I realized that I shouldn't focus on these kind of things because they will not help my mindset. So my mindset should only be, how much should I study? How much should I improve? What can I do on my own so that I become better? There is no point in me comparing to this person, that person. Maybe there is the extremely brilliant person in my class. Then there makes no sense for me to compare myself with only my classmate. Similarly, if none of my classmates are very studious in studying, if I'm the class highest, that is also doesn't mean anything. So class is a very small set of people for us to even compare with each other. So I felt I should work on my own and compete with myself. Okay. So I think I think this is the answer is different for all the three subjects: physics, chemistry, and maths. So I will talk about them individually. So first, let's say physics. Physics NCRT is decently written. So this is obviously talking with mains and advanced level. For boards, obviously all NCRT textbooks are what is essential. But for JEE mains, let's first talk about JEE mains. For JEE mains, physics NCRT is good, decently good, and in some cases will help answer a few questions, theoretical questions which come up in chapters like communication systems. I'm not sure if that is there anymore. It was there for our year. So in such just chapters where there's no mathematics, there is only a theory. Reading NCRT is useful. Similarly, for even problem heavy, theory is written nicely in NCRT, so it is worth glancing. However, its use ends maximum at mains level. The problems given in NCRT are definitely not good enough for JEE Advanced. I would say they might suffice for mains, but that is also only to an extent. I believe you definitely need more practice after NCRT for physics. Now for chemistry. Chemistry is where NCRT is very, very important. I think the practice examples given at the end of the book and the theory. So in chemistry, let's say we have inorganic chemistry first. Inorganic chemistry for JEE mains, NCRT is the only source that anyone ever needs to study. A lot of people make the mistake of buying very expensive books, large books for inorganic for mains, and unable to study because it's a huge book and you will not have time for that. It's completely unnecessary. Reading the NCRT thoroughly, but thoroughly is an important thing because they can ask any question from any corner of the NCRT textbook. So that is a very useful thing, and that's enough for JEE mains inorganic. Organic also, it is mostly enough for JEE mains. But there are a few questions which are out of NCRT syllabus that may be asked in JEE mains in organic. In physical questions are also easy, and I think NCRT should be enough for JEE mains. However, physical chemistry is a little bit more calculation oriented, and therefore problems may not be enough in number. I think they may be enough in level, but maybe few other problems may be required to practice. Now coming to mathematics. Mathematics NCRT is not enough at all for either JEE mains or advanced. Solving NCRT will not be even a little bit useful for mains, in my opinion. That is because JEE mains mathematics actually has been growing at an exponential level from, as I've observed, 2013, 14, 15, 16, 2022 hours, and then 23 now. The mathematics is becoming extremely high level, and NCRT is unable to compete with that level. That is, solving it will not be enough for JEE mains. For JEE Advanced, naturally, it's even higher. So I don't think NCRT mathematics is useful for JEE preparation. For chemistry advanced, so speaking about advanced, JEE Advanced chemistry, NCRT will not be sufficient for inorganic. It will be very useful, but it will not be sufficient. If you want to score very high, there will be few other sources that you would need to refer, like JDD. Similarly, for organic, the questions asked in JEE will be of a higher level. So while NCRT is a good base concept, it will give you all the concept necessary. It will not teach you in detail about them, about reaction mechanisms, about different ways you can conduct the reaction and get different products, like stereoisomers, for example. So such details are not there necessary there, which are required for JEE Advanced. Similarly, for physics NCRT is not at all enough for JEE Advanced because they mix different chapters and concepts asked together. So you need a better, different problem source, tougher problem source. So yes, so physics is actually it's a very tricky subject, but it's actually a very beautiful subject because it is mostly conceptual oriented. Once actually the concept is very clear, the calculation isn't very long. It is not like mathematics where even if you know the concept, it could be very long, like maybe a long indefinite integral where you have no choice but to work out all the steps. Physics, sometimes a very clever method can reduce the number of steps. So there are a few factors which really helped my physics preparation. One was my coaching center where my teacher was himself an All India rank 4 in his own JEE, which is around 1980s. So he was extremely good at teaching physics. So his concepts made it very clear. But the books that I practiced were also very useful to me and really helped my conceptual understanding. Initially, I did Irodov. So IE Irodov is a very tough. IE Irodov is the name of the book. Problems in General Physics, I think, is the title of the book. It's a very tough problem source. Mains definitely doesn't ask such kind of problems, so it isn't very useful for mains preparation. But initially in 11th, one would start with JEE Advanced in mind, and I did Irodov. Problems were extremely tough and extremely challenging and extremely beautiful to solve. Once you solve, you get an idea about a concept. Definitely, I would recommend solving Irodov for all mechanics questions. The first, I'm not sure, I forgot the number. There are around 300 mechanics questions. So mechanics starts from motion in one dimension, kinematics, laws of motion, work, power, energy, conservation of momentum, rotational mechanics, fluid dynamics, etc. So this is mechanics. So all of these first 300 questions are very useful. I think I solved all of them. Then you have hydrodynamics, which is a part which I felt too tough for me to solve. And then you have electrodynamics, is another chapter in Irodov, which is also pretty good, but it becomes a little complicated as you progress. So some problems which you can solve are good. Then you have optics, which I really didn't try out, but I cannot recommend. I don't know about that. So Irodov is a book that I use definitely. Another book that I used was I used a few books, but I would say Physics Galaxy is a definitely great suggestion. Physics Galaxy, there are the questions they're handwritten, extremely beautifully set questions. So I think they are worth solving. Similarly, there is I also used the Physics Pathfinder, which is an Olympiad level book, and it's a very tough problem source. It is far above the level of JEE Advanced as well. JEE Advanced Physics is also not as hard. But the reason I use it was because if I solve a very tough problem, it means it requires a very innovative solution, and it kind of helps my brain align its thought process into the direction of solving a problem. So that's what I did for physics. So yes, chemistry is so one thing I wanted to talk about is that chemistry is a very, very, very important subject. When I was in the beginning of my JEE preparation, at least serious JEE preparation, which is around 11th beginning, I was not that good at chemistry. I was in 10th standard, I did JEE preparation, but I was horrible at chemistry. And in 11th, it slightly improved. But it is only until 12th midway that I realized how important chemistry was. Chemistry is a very easy mark scoring chapter. It is a subject. It is a subject where you can score marks easily, but you have to put in all the effort that is required before the exam in terms of memorizing the formulae or the equations or reaction mechanisms or compounds, etc. So this kind of effort, I think, is very worth it, and I wish I'd put it sooner. So this is an advice that I would definitely give. In terms of memorization chemistry, either formula or something, I would follow the strategy of first memorize something. So I wouldn't study for 3-4 hours in a row in terms of memorizing inorganic chemistry or any chemistry really, because I would always forget whatever I studied in the first 1 hour. Rather, I would make it a daily process. I would make sure that I wouldn't go by with any day without doing at least a little bit of chemistry in terms of memorization. This way, memory builds up gradually over time, and once you're done, you will have it strong within your memory. And even if you don't use it for 2-3 months, you may feel like you're forgetting, but because you've done it, you have memorized for so long, it will be in your brain, and your instinct will improve. So I think that is a major factor that drives people to get extremely high marks and things like that. Instinct. So when you don't know an answer, the general advice is to leave it. Otherwise, you will get negative marks. But if you've studied like this for so long, then even if you were to guess, there's a lot of chance that you're right, because your brain remembers, even though you really cannot remember in front. It's a kind of subconscious memory. So it really helps this way. So I think I would do half an hour of memorization every day. And what I would do is the next day, I would briefly check whether I remember the previous day. Otherwise, I just relearn. So this way, I keep building on my knowledge, and I regularly test myself with just simple inorganic questions like equations with a blank at the end, and I try to fill in what the answer is. General small self tests like that. Okay, so for mathematics, it's a subject that requires lots and lots of problem solving, problem practice. So that's exactly why I also do not recommend NCRT mathematics as a textbook. As in, I mean, it is already for boards preparation, but when you come to JEE level, right, the concepts are not the concepts taught are not enough to only go through. It is a very important to practice a large number of questions. The larger number of questions you practice, the better in mathematics. It is very simple like that. Unlike in chemistry, where a lot of theory learning will help in marks increase. Here, so I used a lot of books for preparing for mathematics. Of course, in fact, in addition to all of these answers, I also solved my Fiji packages very diligently. They themselves contain tons and tons of problems, but these are additional books. So some books I used were Arihant DPPs. Arihant Publications has a set of DPPs books. I think a series of 8 books, with each book containing 2-3 chapters. And basically, this series had useful mains level and advanced level problems. So it's useful for both. And apart from Arihant DPP, I also used this very famous book used by a lot of people called Black Book. It's by Balaji Publications. Its official name, I think, is Advanced Problems in Mathematics, but Balaji Black Book is its informal name, popular name. So that also has very tough. It is a collection of nice problems, but I think mostly advanced level. So they are useful for advanced type. But some problems are easy. So it is somewhere between mains and advanced level. But they're useful for both exams. I think Balaji, the book. Apart from this, uh, um, I also used to use Cengage. Cengage again DBPs. DBPs are daily practice problems. These also used to be white booklets, which you would have around 20 or 10 problems in a topic, and maybe a chapter would have 3 or 4 topics, and it would be like that. I used to solve these two. Yeah, these are the books I use for mathematics. Okay, so first, first thing that I emphasized on was that I'd make sure that whatever topic I learn, I learn it properly, so that I won't create backlogs. Especially at the end of 11th, I make sure that I don't have any backlogs. So, which means in 12th standard when I'm studying, none of the 11th standard topics are completely left out. So I at least know them, if not confidently, at least I'm aware of them. So this way, this meant that I didn't have much burden on my 12th standard when I had to revise 11th. So I think this is an important thing. When you're in 11th standard and there is no exam nearby, that is the only exams you're going to be writing are near the end of 12th standard, right? So you have a gap of an year at least, an year or so. So when you have that much, there's no need to rush 11th standard portions and finish and leave few backlogs. Leaving a few backlogs will make it difficult for you in your 12th standard preparation. When you have to revise the 11th standard topics, it will become difficult because you don't know the 11th standard topic and you have to relearn again from scratch. And you may not have that much time in 12th standard, because 12th standard topics are generally a little more important than 11th standard topics when it comes to JEE. The JEE weightage of 12th standard is around 60%, whereas 11th is only 40%. Even the 12th standard has slightly lesser topics than 11th standard. So which means per topic, the weightage is even more than the ratio 6:4. So, so in 12th standard, what I used to do is I mostly didn't revise 11th standard during the bulk of the 12th standard preparation, because I was very interested in learning the current chapters like electromagnetism and calculus, etc. However, when it came to the end of 12th standard, that is when I started my 11th revision. But because my 11th syllabus was already reasonably strong, I could pick it up at a slightly lesser level, and I had to work my way back. I would do general practice problems from these books. Since these books aren't clearly segregated into 11th and 12th, I also used to do a few 11th problems in between of 12th. So that used to account for revision and made me keep in touch. So the main idea is to keep in touch generally regularly, even if it does not mean revising everything completely. So I used to solve a few or 2, 3 problems. If I didn't get, then I would go back to the class notes and make sure I know what it is about, what it's about. So this is where I used to revise. Is the question about how many hours I spent per day studying for the JEE exam?
Yes, and how much dedicated to individual subjects?
Okay. So one of the things I did during my JEE preparation to monitor my time was to write a timetable online. So I had a computer, a desktop, where I would open an Excel spreadsheet. It would be an empty spreadsheet, and I would write times on the with columns. So the times would begin at 8 a.m. with half an hour slot. So 8 to 8:30 would be the first slot, then 8:30 to 9, 9 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10, so on until in the night 12 o'clock is where I stopped. So I'd have an 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock vertical row along the columns. And now on this axis, I would have the days. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, etc. I wouldn't fill anything inside the timetable. So I would keep all of the grid lines blank. And at the end of every half an hour that would proceed, I'd write down what I do in a short form. So I'd have short form notations. For example, if I did a Fiji physics package is a word for a textbook. So if I did a Fiji physics textbook, then I would write FPP. So that's a short form for that. So similarly, I would fill in short forms for everything. If I had a class, I would just put X, or if I wasted time, I would put X. So I would know where my class hours were, where my time waste was, what subjects I did for how many hours, what was my weekly total. This way, I did it for around 1.5 years. So 1.5 years every day, I would not I wouldn't plan anything for that week. In my mind, I would say I want to do this for today, but I wouldn't write it down. I'll only write down what I already did. So that half an hour, every half an hour, I used to fill it. So once I was done with that, I had lots of data about how much time I spent. I think overall, if I talk now, I think it was around 6 hours, 15 minutes or something like that. So a little more than 6 hours. Let's say 6. So I used to prepare roughly 6 hours, averaging over 11th and 12th during my JEE. Individual topics. So 6 sevens are 42. So this would mean around 42 hours per week on an average. Uh, uh, More on weekends, obviously. But if I were to split this time, a lot of time went in mathematics, because I definitely needed the practice for mathematics. Chemistry, I should have studied more, which is chemistry during 11th and 12th beginning. I didn't understand the importance. Near the middle of 12th till the end, I understood the importance of chemistry, and I gave a lot of time to chemistry. That was when I was studying chemistry almost 80% of the time, all the time, because I really understood the importance of chemistry. So, as in fact, the 2021 JEE Advanced AIR1 Mridul Agarwal said, if you become friends with chemistry earlier, it will be more beneficial to you. So that is a good advice that I would give everybody else. Similarly, okay, so right now, on an average, if I were to speak, I would say around 40% of the time I would give to mathematics. Around another 35% I'd give to physics, and the remaining 25% I would give to chemistry. That's what I used to do, but I would recommend for future use more time invested into chemistry. it's up to you whether which subject you want to pull out, depending on what your strong subject is. My JEE preparation, as is every all the 2022 JEE advanced people's preparation was mostly in COVID. So their entire 11th and 12th were correctly in the online period. So I had a kind of a unique experience in that sense. So because of COVID, naturally, for months we were just forced. We were sitting in our homes, and we couldn't go out because of the lockdown and everything. Luckily, though, I had a tennis court not very far away, and it was at this time where my father introduced me to tennis, and he said this is a good stress buster that is generally it's useful during when stressful times, during either bad marks in a certain practice test, or frustrated at not solving a few bunch of questions in a practice module. It could be anything. So I used to play tennis for an hour at least daily in this tennis court. So that this is something that I started during this is something I started around at 12th beginning. So I didn't do it in 11th. 11th was when we had a harsh lockdown, so we couldn't go out of our house, right? But in 12th, when it sort of relaxed, I used to go out and play, but I used to play for 1 hour. So one thing definitely though was, after playing, I'd come immediately, take a bath and continue studying. So I didn't used to waste much time in the process of playing, but the playing itself was pretty relaxing and calming. So this is how I was able to keep my calmness. So yes, JEE is a long journey. So it is a journey of at least 3-4 years. For many people, it is 6, but for most people, it's around 3-4 2 years around. So yes, keeping focus is a big thing. It is a test which really tests this kind of quality, perseverance, dedication. So and very, very important thing is to be self-motivated, is to not explicitly rely on others for motivation. At some lows in your JEE preparation, you would definitely require motivation from others. Others will motivate you, either your teachers or your friends or your family. But at your heart, it should be you who should be motivated. You should not be studying because somebody else has told you to study to write this exam and to try to clear it. No, you should be studying because you enjoy studying. That's a primary thing. Not even because you want to clear it. You should enjoy studying the material. Because if you're suffering for the entire 2-3 years, then there's no point for you to put yourself through all of that. You should be able to enjoy the process. So you should enjoy learning the concepts, enjoy practicing the problems, even writing the tests, because it is a measure of how you can strategize during the tests, right? So that is something that should enjoy you. Right. So now talking about perseverance, self motivation is very important. So you should find your motivation somewhere. Why do I want to write JEE? Why do I want to clear it? Let's say, why do I want an IIT? What will I do with it? What is my motivation? So think deeply about that, and think deeply about that. Whenever you feel demotivated, remind yourself of that. Write this reason for this motivation somewhere in your study place. And whenever you're depressed or whenever you're demotivated, definitely look at it and remind yourself the reason why you're doing this. So the self motivation will really drive you. So keeping the focus for 3 years, however, is difficult. And during around slightly during the mid 12th, I was a little I was slightly demotivated, but for a period of a month or so. But then it was my family who really helped me up and motivated me back to shit. So yes, I did make I did make mistakes during my JEE preparation that I would definitely advise students. One major advice I already told, mistake I already made during my JEE preparation was not realizing the worth of chemistry. As I already said, this is really important, really important, which is why I want to emphasize again. The chemistry is very useful, even if you don't like it. I really, in my 11th beginning, I did not like chemistry at all. I completely disliked it because of the lack of logic within it. To be fair, I really was not a fan of memorizing things. I wanted things to be analytic, conceptual, where I could understand and apply myself. But some things in chemistry simply made no sense. So due to this, I always had an aversion, and it took a while, near mid 12th, for me to get over it. This is definitely not ideal. At the end of the day, chemistry is a subject in JEE, regardless of your feelings towards it. It is going to have the same weightage as maths or physics. It is easier to score in as well, which means you should stop looking at it as a disadvantage and start looking at it as an advantage. So you should start. I think the earlier one becomes strong in chemistry, as in strong with the fundamental concepts, chemical bonding, periodic properties. These are the fundamental driving forces of you, because these concepts will again be utilized in coordination compounds, P block. All the block elements, even though they seem very difficult to memorize, really are built on the concepts of chemical bonding and periodic properties. So this kind of early start chemistry is actually, I think, a good advice. Another mistake I did is somewhat around the similar trend, which is inorganic preparation for JEE Advanced. So as I already said, NCERT chemistry is very important for inorganic preparation for JEE mains. And this is what I did. I did it to a pretty decent extent, where I almost memorized all the NCERT textbooks. Just memorized the entire textbook like by heart. Like I could tell which page what was written, because I had to, because they could ask from anywhere, and I didn't want to lose any marks. So I did that. But the point is, I fell short of, I didn't really know what to use for JEE Advanced. Nobody recommended a great source. They told me a bunch of sources, but they were all too fat books for me to study before JEE Advanced. Only in the last 1 week of before JEE Advanced, I was studying JDL one day, and I realized that almost all the JEE Advanced questions were coming from there. So then that's when I realized that JDL is a very good source for JEE Advanced. But even though JDL is a very fat book, the questions from where they ask are very tiny portions of the book. So it's actually a very readable material size from the large book. And this material size can be found through the JEE Advanced website. You can Google the syllabus, and against the syllabus, whenever a topic is mentioned, you go to JDL and the topic will be written there. And the topic will only have a half a page or 2 pages of material, from which they'll ask questions. So that's one thing I should have realized beforehand. So, in my opinion, this is a very subjective opinion. This is a very subjective answer, a question to ask as well. But I'll give the what I believe are the factors you can consider while choosing which year to start. So one thing is, it depends on the your mental state. So, do you think you're a person who can study for 4 years without losing motivation? That's a very important question to ask, because studying for 4 years will definitely give you much more advantage than studying for 2 years. But at the same time, studying for 4 years gives you far more risk of burnout than studying for 2 years. So the problem with the burnout is, people are very enthusiastic. If they start in 9th standard for JEE preparation, they're very enthusiastic, very highly motivated in 9th and 10th, maybe even 11th. But when they come to 12th, which is a very crucial year for JEE, which is really the year where JEE is written, and months before the exam, they just lose enthusiasm completely, because they've studied for 3.5 years. Their bodies, their minds, they're all very tired of it. They just want to relax now. So unfortunately, if it comes right before the exam, it's very it's not good for the results. So on the other hand, studying for 2 years has less risk of this, because you've only studied for 2 years. But on the other hand, studying for 2 years may not be you may not be able to cover as many concepts that you can do in 4 years, or strengthen as many. So really, the answer is how you judge yourself, and this is a very crucial factor in all senses of JEE preparation. You should be able to correctly know what you can do realistically. Very important. I cannot sit today and say tomorrow I'll be on the moon, because I'm not in the same physical situation. I've not done anything to achieve it. So you should be able to realistically judge yourself at each step. At each step of your preparation, judge uh, both your capability. Can I really solve JEE Advanced, or is my preparation such that I'm fine, I'm comfortable with mains? You should make that honest decision for yourself and not lie to yourself in either saying that I can prepare for JEE Advanced when maybe you can't, and similarly saying, oh no, I cannot solve JEE Advanced when you actually can. So you should be able to analyze this clearly. Once you analyze this question of whether you want to start in 10th, 11th, 9th, 10th, 11th will be easy, because the moment you know that you're very motivated and you can handle 4 years, that's when then you start in 9th. Otherwise 10th, or otherwise 11th. But starting in 12th is a little bit tough. 11th standard is a very important, crucial build up for 12th. There are people who have done very well, even having started in 12th. However, it is not a recommended course of action. 11th is decent. 11th is where many people start. 10th is even more advantageous, because 10th standard is where you can utilize the time, free time, which is very useful to study 11th. JEE is concerned. 9th standard may be a bit early, but you can still use that time to brush up knowledge, because 9th standard concepts are what makes up the basis for 11th standard. If you notice the chapters in 9th standard NCRT, if you compare 9th and 11th, they're almost identical, because you have work power energy in 9th standard, you have work power energy in 11th. Of course, the 11th is far more complicated, but the basis lies in 9th. So starting JEE preparation 9th also could be useful due to this fact. Okay, so I have a friend of mine who has done self-study for JEE mains. He has his JEE mains rank is 77. So I think self-study does not mean you cannot do well in JEE mains. He got an amazing rank, as 77 means. So the way you can even find him up online. Meet Jain. So he's right now in IIT Madras too. My classmate. And so the way he would say is figure out what you want to know. So figure out your resources that you have, the books that you have. This you do by asking others. You can watch this. You can watch others. Others give their recommendations. These are available online. Then once you do that, make sure you have your concepts. Make sure you know where you can find concepts. As in, if you don't know something, make sure where you can find it. And from that, you can use. There are many resources online, like an academy. I'm not sure. There are a bunch of videos explaining things very nicely, which you can refer to and solve problems. Solving problems is essentially important. It is nothing that there's not much you can do if you don't solve problems. Essentially, I can say that.
Okay.
So So, okay, if you are a person who has JEE mains in 30 days time, and you have a lot of topics remaining, an important thing is to know which topics to leave out. There's no way that you can cover all the topics in the remaining time. And even if you do cover, there is no way that you will be able to answer questions well, because you will not have spent enough time making us each topic strong. So here is where you should look at the weightage of each chapter, which I can tell you briefly that things like calculus are important, and permutations and combinations mostly occur in numerical type questions. So these are things you should notice, trends, like where questions are asked from which chapters in what type of questions. So if you notice that permutations and combinations questions are generally show up in numerical type questions. If you have not started permutation combinations and vector and 3D geometry, actually vector and 3D geometry also they ask in numerical. Let's say a chapter X is where they ask a lot in multiple choice questions. it is useful, it is more useful studying that MCQ questions type chapter rather than permutations and combinations. I would definitely, in no way, I'm recommending to leave permutation combinations if you're someone who started from 11th or 12th. But if you have 30 days time, you have to optimize. It's about optimization. So numerical section is something where you have choice, right? You only attempt 5 out of 10 questions. So given the fact that P and C questions are generally asked in numerical, it means it's a chapter where you can leave out, because you can leave out the questions in any other 5 to 10 questions. So like this, you have to optimize your chapter preparation. The important strategy to leading up to a JEE mains, or actually any exam, is first and foremost importantly is exam writing. Lots of people go wrong here in the sense that they do not write enough exams. They are scared of the marks that they get in the exam, and they are worried about what their parents' reaction will be, or their friends' reaction will be, or other reaction, and they themselves are worried if they will lose confidence in the exam. This is a very, very big mistake, because at the end of the day, 2 years of JEE preparation, the biggest thing that you will learn is experience. It's not the knowledge even. Knowledge, other people will also study. What is the difference between boards preparation and JEE preparation? Boards preparation, even if you start studying 2 weeks, 3 weeks before, you will be able to score decent marks. But if you study 2-3 weeks before JEE, it is difficult to simulate that experience, because JEE is an exam where there's a vast portion, and you need to be able to have the experience of solving questions, because you have that very, very big, very short time span. So this experience is very important, and it's something that you can only get through writing exams. So writing exams, a lot of exams is very useful, and you should stop worrying about the score that you get in the exam, and only analyze the result. Analyze where you went wrong, what strategy you can use better, what subject order you can use better, what questions you can leave in the exam, easy questions, tough questions. What is your mentality during the exam? How can I improve my energy during the exam? These are things you should analyze in the exam. So this is very important. So writing exams is important. 3 months remaining. Next, revision. So first, write a list syllabus of chapters which are in the exam, and write your confidence level. Write great, okay, bad for every chapter. Once you know which are your strong chapters, which are your weak chapters, leave all the bad chapters. Sorry, not 3 months is okay. It depends on how strong you are. If you are first goal should be to make medium chapters strong. So take all the medium chapters. You should revise all of them. Practice problem sources from them. Simultaneously, you should be writing exams continuously. Lots and lots and lots of exams. More exams you write, more experience, better your marks. Leave the bad chapters if it comes to the end. They are not going to help you much in terms of marks. So that's the thing I would recommend. Yes, okay. So that's that's a good question. So this is it's a gradual variation in my preparation. So if I start at 11th beginning, 11th beginning, so we used to have something called we used to have two types of tests mainly, chapter tests and phase tests. A phase is kind of a accumulation of a bunch of chapters. There used to be 7 phases distributed among 3 years, so it's roughly a quarter of an year. So we used to have phases around once in 2 months or so. Not exactly sure about the frequency, but in these tests, the chapter test used to be for every chapter, so they used to be much more frequent. In chapter tests, I mean, the difficulty of each test is difficult to compare. Some tests are said to be advanced, but they're not really advanced. They're pretty easy. The mains tests are said to be mains, but they're also pretty easy. So what I'd rather say is the way the comparison works. Well, in the coaching institute, we had 108 people. So out of which I'd say my rank. Generally, for chapter tests, it used to be very simple. My mathematics chapter test, if I were to write, it almost always used to be 1 or 2. My physics chapter tests used to be either 1, very very rarely, or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even around 10 occasionally. My chemistry ranks used to vary just randomly. Like I didn't know. So sometimes I'd get like 5, sometimes I'd get 36, sometimes I'd get 20, sometimes I get 10. So I didn't. There's no pattern there. But on overall, if I were to write face tests, I used to get around. I used to get around. I started off with ranks of around 5, 10, sometimes even 20. I remember once. Gradually improving my way over through, and near 12th beginning towards the end, I used to get ones pretty consistently. It was actually pretty nice. So in fact, on a similar note, my reaction when I got my JEE rank was also very it's a moment I can never forget. It is there's a sense of great happiness and gratefulness. See, that's an important thing to also note. It doesn't matter after all the preparation, there is still a factor of luck involved. You need to be well on the day of the exam. The paper shouldn't be too strange as compared to what you have solved. There are precautions that you can take against it. That's exactly the purpose of the exam experience. Like, you should be able to prepare for all sorts of situations. So in sports, generally, when athletes prepare for a certain type of opponent, they don't just prepare, the shots or the strategy. They make sure that they have the presence of mind to change the strategy when the opponent is behaving differently or playing better or something. That is the most important thing in an exam. That is what separates people who do extremely well versus people who may not do extremely well. The idea is that people who do extremely well are ready for all kinds of situations within the exam, whether it's a power cut. So in fact, in our JEE Advanced exam, in my JEE Advanced exam, I mean, in 2022, the font size was large. Like, the normal question should fill up the entire screen, right? Our font size was like expanded out of the screen. So for every question, we have to scroll up and down, scroll sideways to be able to see the full question, which essentially led to a lot of time waste. Imagine seeing only the top of a sphere and scrolling down to see the bottom of the sphere. My mouse also was not functioning very nicely. To be ready for these kind of situations is what, and be calm and continue to solve the paper is what helped me more. So I believe that is also something I would say. So my experience in stepping into IIT was definitely it was a feeling of achievement, but also gratefulness that I was that that God had given me this set of opportunities with a set of mentors, with good teachers, good motivators, family, friends, without whom I mean, my effort would not be may not be giving a fruit like this, right? So I cannot definitely say that this is something I did. It is something that everybody around me helped me do. Yes, so so that's one thing. That's one motivating factor for you to definitely get into an IIT. The seniors are extremely helpful. They won't hesitate to even stop their own work and come help you with your own work. I have definitely great relation, especially during JEE, because I was studying. I was completely I isolated myself. I even lost a lot of friendships. I mean, it took a lot of sacrifice, but I don't regret the sacrifice, because now again, you can always call them back and develop a strong, a nice a set of friends, a set of seniors you can talk to and approach. And this is something that I did, and now I feel the sacrifice was well worth it. It is really, really worth it. So I think the seniors here are very helpful. They do help me solve assignments. They give me fun activities to do. They give us all fun activities to do. We have nice discussions late in the night. We go out, things like that. So, firstly, to you guys, JEE aspirants, I know, being a JEE aspirant myself, how tough JEE is, and I understand that it must be even more tougher for you with all financial constraints, etc. Okay, but if I were to say something, is that you can do it. You can do it. You have it in you, and you can definitely achieve it. Okay, and achieving it is really worth it. That is something that people need to say occasionally, that it is worth it. People say If it is okay, it's fine. It is fine. Not getting into IIT is not the end of the world. But while you're preparing, you should be motivated in such a sense that getting here is really worth it. So you can definitely do it. And Sathi is a very good initiative, which will definitely help all of you. And yes, I would be willing in mentoring occasionally. Yes. Find find your motivation inside. Okay. And that motivation, let that be a spark to ignite a fire. And that fire will keep you going. That fire will not rest until you get your rank. Okay. You guys can all do it. That much I can say. If you're all motivated, you can achieve it.